How are y'all tonight? Thursday night. Um, hold on, was that? There, down at the bottom. No, no, down at the bottom. Keep going down. Right there. All right. Having we've had some technical difficulties tonight, and anyway, just want to get into before we get into it. The video again that was played was the sponsor tonight. That's Power Core. That's me. That's the core series. It's kind of a build your own, um, and you won't break the bank. It's basically you can pick out your rod color, pick out the rod color, the thread, put your name on it, and it's like 8, 10 different colors, and they're nice. Give you five sizes to pick from. I need to add one more, but anyway, that's what I have on there now. Um, Anyway, boat ramp 10. That's all caps. Boat ramp 10 gets you 10% off of that series. They're $129, 10%. I think you get them for like 113. I also have on the site some combos right now on sale for 109. A bait caster, and some spinning reel rod and reels. So go check that out. It's PowerCore rods.com. Everything's in the description down below. Also, I didn't write this down, but this is the hat I'm wearing is EKFT. It's a stream kayak fishing tournament company Joe Hector owns. Saturday, they had their captain kickoff party tonight. I wasn't able to go, but Saturday is the last tournament of the year. It's the Summer Slam, and it's actually an Olympic qualifier. So whoever wins gets a place on the USA kayak saltwater team and gets an invite to Spain. So pretty cool deal. I'll be there with a booth. If you're in the area of Pompano Beach, it's down by the pier. He has a big stage around probably around 2, 3 o'clock. Is when they have to be back on the beach. There also will be paddleboard races there. Yoga on the beach will be there in the morning. If you want to come see the launch, they launch anywhere. I'm guessing anywhere between 7 and 8, maybe 6:30. I can't remember. But anyway, it's pretty cool, and I think there is a lot of kayakers for this last one, especially with what's on the line. It's pretty neat. You can go. You can find them. It's Extreme Kayak Fishing Tournament Company. I just want to give a shout out. And again, if you're in Pompano Beach area, I'll have a booth down there Saturday. Come by and see me. I have a lot of hats, a lot of my new hats that haven't put on the website yet. But anyway, all right, let's get into it. I'm bringing in my co-host. We had some technical difficulties tonight, so we are doing this together, and I'm having him inch. He's struggling. He's struggling. He's struggling.
Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Cowboy preacher here with me tonight, and the topic. I know we joke around, play around. Hey,
What?
cameras up
Oh,
there.
I got. Well,
Yeah.
I was
No,
looking
I
up
just
here.
want to let you know
Don't be messing
because I
with me.
keep looking down too. But anyway,
It's old people.
old people
Old
stuff.
people.
Old people stuff. I ain't gonna say what.
No, don't say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mean, we joke around and everything, but this topic tonight, uh, serious topic. It affects pretty much everybody, and there's reasons why we put depression with the question marks, and we'll explain why we did that, and we can just get into it. And I know you had said just explain why you wanted to put the question mark, and then we'll just go into discussing stuff I've been through with work and everything, and
Right.
we'll go from there.
Okay. In dealing with this, you have to understand that there's a different why Christians believe what they believe. Okay, that you can get into the clinical and everything else, but to preface all of this, so you understand where we're coming from as Christians, when God created the heavens and the earth, and he formed, and this is what we believe the Bible tells us: formed man of the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, and that meant he had a mind, will, and a motion, and it was all in sync with God. And then when Adam and Eve decided they would disobey God, God withdrew his spirit, and they were no longer in sync with him. Uh, and then so what you have is what we call the world that has to have an answer that is not a spiritual answer, because God's spirit is no longer in man. So man, therefore, must come up with his own answer. Now, tonight we call about depression, and you can give a clinical answer. And I'm not going to debate you back and forth, because I'm sure there are a lot smarter men than I am about that, and I don't study it. But clinical depression is basically when you get down and out. Nothing, people get down, but when you get out, it means that you lose your appetite.
Right, but I think what we were talking about is earlier today was that um, there's a neurological problem.
Yes,
and not so much a the world uses depression, but
yeah. We as Christians, now there again, what you just said, yes, there are neurological problems.
yes,
I mean, there's no denying that. But as Christians, we look at depression when you get down and out, when you're lethargic, when you lose your appetite, you lose your sleep, you don't, or what we were talking about, the smiling depression, to where
that
I don't
Yeah.
want anybody to see.
Well, and a lot of men.
Yeah,
And
I don't want
what
anybody. That's a sign of weakness.
and especially especially today's age with the trying to strip man of his masculinity.
Yes.
And guys wanting to be men, but they're not gonna. That's where a lot of women run into problems trying to figure out men where, oh, well, they won't tell me anything. It's like Bill
Right.
Engvall.
Right.
Bill Engvall, where he said, I'll give you an example of how men are, and he said we're in there in the gym, and my buddy says that uh, just take for instance, me and my wife are splitting up, okay, and go on about working out. You get home, you tell your wife, "Hey, so and so, they're splitting up." Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why. What, you didn't ask? No, we just kept working out, and that's where men don't. That's where we hide stuff.
Yeah, I think on like the smiling or the thing is that
I'm
if I
fine.
share, no, either I'm fine or uh, they don't care anyway.
Right.
Okay, but I think the smiling depression, a great example is Robin Williams.
Yes.
He let the whole world know he
Yes.
was just hiding
Right.
behind all that. Okay, so when we get into depression from a Christian viewpoint, is we all know that we get down, but we believe that it's a sin when you handle a down period sinfully. In other words, if you're down, if you get into depression and you just stop, and depression means you just quit. I just give up.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and you handle that situation sinfully, that's what we call sinfully. You take a down period and you just keep going further and further to it. Uh, then, of course, the world says, "Hey, you're depressed, you're down and out. We need to give you a medicine and
Yeah.
all this counseling and everything." And we think that it's because you're handling it from a sinful viewpoint.
Right.
Okay?
And they call it depression, where technically you're saying if you're down and you just completely
Quit.
shut down, quit, that's
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah. And it's sinful because you're
Right.
handling whatever your situation
Right.
is,
Right.
you're handling it from a sinful viewpoint. In other words, you're saying, "I'm down." We all get down.
Right.
But now I'm going to quit.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, and I don't know, the way my mind works and stuff I've gone through, I learned early on that um I don't control anything. I can only control what I can control. And when something doesn't go the way I want it to go, I just say, all right, I wasn't meant to have it. I wasn't meant to do it. And I just continue on. So I've made a choice to not, if I'm down, I've made a choice to just keep moving and not let, but then again, I hide it too. I don't want nobody to know.
Yeah.
I got real good at that about 20 years ago, 22 years ago, because my thing and how I handle guys on a job site that is going through something, either divorce or whatever he's going through, and I see it affecting what he's doing, I'll pull him to the side or wait till after work and talk with him and say, look, um, but this is the way I handle it. And I may not have handled it right with him, but I say, look, you got to concentrate on work and worry about that after work. You don't, especially in construction, where you have to build a thick skin around any of the guys. You don't want them to have something on you where they can mess with you. Then it causes another type of, not depression, a down thing where you know what I mean.
Yeah, but
And
it's also dangerous on a construction
right,
job.
yes,
Very
yes, and
dangerous.
if you don't have your head in it,
Right.
So that's where I tell them you've got to make a choice. Are you to not let this whatever you're going through affect you at work until after work. You got to learn to deal with it after work.
Yeah.
And that's the way I handled it. Just like this week, I had something that I really wanted, did not pan out, and I could have gone and sulked about it. But I figured that it wasn't the right time and it wasn't meant for me to have it.
Well,
So, and I could have got down about it.
Yeah, and look, we act as it's not that we Christians are not facing the reality of it. Ever let me see if I can find it.
What were you talking about? What was the?
Okay, here's what Paul. Now we know for a fact.
Yeah.
Okay, Paul lists all the things that happened to him. I was shipwrecked. I was beaten.
Right.
I starved. All this. He listed
Right.
all those things.
Right.
Now, so if anybody was going to be what the world's term depressed, because this is over his life, there's
Right.
nothing good. And he said, we are afflicted in all sorts of ways, but we're not crushed, perplexed, but not given to despair. We're persecuted, but not deserted, struck down, but not destroyed. And that's what I'm saying from a Christian perspective. As we look at the Bible, these things are going to happen to us.
Right.
But it's the question of whether you quit or not. And the Bible says, because when a person accepts Christ and God now returns his spirit back within man, that's called born again, it means now he didn't, Timothy says, I don't give you the spirit of fear or anxiety and despair, but of power and love and of a sound mind.
Yeah.
So to sit there and give into this, to us, that is a sin.
Right.
You get up,
Right.
Like Paul said, it don't matter, you can have stress, and stress causes depression
and anxiety
and but you
choose
in spite of your feelings.
Right.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
In spite of how I feel.
Right.
And one day, some people do, some people don't. About twice a year, I would have this black cloud fall over me.
Right.
I don't know why. It's just like it was, whoa.
Yeah.
And I could have sat there in my recliner and not done anything. But I had a wedding to do that morning. Then I had to put tires on my vehicle. And then I had a funeral that I had to attend, that I had to get up.
Right.
And do it.
Right.
In spite of the way I felt.
Yes.
So, we have these difficulties. We act like Christians are supposed to be exempt from these things.
Yeah.
But we're not. We're still human beings we still have that old nature in us that with Adam and Eve. Now we have a new nature. And he says, if any man is in Christ, he becomes a new creation. The old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. So he says, like in Romans, he said, here's what it is. And we were talking about this today. The world has its answer.
Right.
To anything. They have to.
Right.
They can't agree with the Bible. But he said, don't be conformed. This once you become a Christian, conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Right.
And you know yourself. This is where you win or lose right here.
And I mean, I'm no at one point when I went to college, when I first went to college, I didn't make it through, but when I first went, I was going to be a psychologist, and I knew after taking the first class that was not me, that I would end up being like the drill sergeant on that commercial. But I did learn that your mind is a key to almost everything. and you can make, I know nothing about Navy SEALs, Rangers, or anything what they go through, but I do know they go through psychological to make their bodies do things that it doesn't normally do, and it's all with the mind. You can make yourself, I just remember one instant. I'm on a roof, huge job, and it was 130 degrees, and you know. What I started teaching myself was don't think about how hot it is. Now, don't get me wrong, it's hot,
Yes.
but it the more I told myself it's not hot and just dealt with the work, focused on the work, I didn't get overheated or anything like that. And I would, guys are like, man, it's hot. I said, quit thinking about how hot it
So it
is.
did change the degree.
Yes.
The heat degree did not
No,
change.
but it changed in my mind and my body. Uh, I don't know, absorbed the heat, whatever it was. My mind was telling my body it's not as hot as what it's saying it is.
Right.
And I don't know how that works. I didn't study neurology or anything like that.
Right.
I can barely talk uh, talk right anyway.
Well,
So I mean, can you see me in neurology school with the professor?
oh no.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah. So
All right. So here, let me give you. It just came to me. You said that. So I'm working at. You remember I worked at FEI,
oh
Florida
yeah,
Environmental Institute. And for those that don't know this has to do with the Violent Offenders Program. And it was like 14 to 18 years old, and they were the most violent youth offenders in the state. They were too young to send to the adult prison, but too bad to be in the juvenile system. And so I was working out there in charge of the cattle and the horses. So we had a counselor that none of the kids liked.
mm-hmm.
Okay. I won't tell you his name, but we had a counselor none of the kids liked. And so I got with the kids, and I was also teaching some educational studies and psychology and
Right,
things.
right.
So I told them to start telling him that he looked sick.
Yeah,
Okay. That,
yeah.
are you sure you're feeling good? The next morning, the guy comes in, and everyone he met, those kids say, "You all right?
And
You don't look good
You
today."
don't look good.
He went home by noon sick.
Yeah,
Simply because he began to believe what was put in his mind. And what we, with the Bible, with the thing is, you don't go with your feelings, you don't go with what people think, you go with the scriptures. And we believe that the scripture has an answer. You just have to.
Well, scripture,
Yeah.
and because God gave us free will,
Yes.
a free mind to think,
right.
Gave us a sound mind. So, I mean that can even relate. You talking about, you tell a person, what is it, 7 times. You tell somebody
17 times.
17 times, they'll remember it. You keep telling it over and over and over. That's what they'll know is the truth.
Yeah.
Same thing that happens today, where you have half of the country are thinkers that think, and the
Right.
other half has sat there and listened to things over and over and over that aren't necessarily true, and over and over and over. And after 17 times, they go, you tell them something for a fact, and they'll say, no, that's not true. This is what happened because of that. That's how everything, it's all psychology.
You ever notice the mainstream media how
Yes.
they parrot if they get on a phrase? Let's say
Or,
somebody
or
come
just
on a phrase.
just say, when they put out a news article
Yeah.
that day, and it says rambling or something like that.
Yeah,
Everyone,
rambling man, and the mainstream media, their people will begin to parrot rambling man, and they'll bring
all the
in
article.
rambling man all day long, and pretty soon people start talking about the rambling man.
Yes, yes,
And it means they're not individual. That's why, to me,
right.
Okay, that there has to be some type of control.
Yes,
Over the mainstream media if they're repeating the
right.
same
Right.
phrases from one network to the another.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
And then the people that was, by the way, that 17 times was from listening to a commercial.
Yes.
You ever get, and I've done it myself. You'll start singing the song that you hated when they started.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But all of a
Yeah.
sudden you sing
All of a
along
sudden.
with, or you sing and you couldn't stand it to begin with.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
and so,
And the reason why we brought that up, it wasn't to get into politics or anything like that. It is to get in to bring up your sound mind and uh in the course of depression. So when you get down, that's where you I mean, I'm not a physical fit person. I'm very active. According to
right,
the doctor, says you're a very active dude for a big man, and but you train a lot of athletes will tell you have to train your body and your mind. So even them get depressed. They get so far, and then when they're training and there's a hiccup, well, they have a choice to be depressed about that hiccup or get back up and keep
right,
going. And the ones that get back up and keep going are the ones that are successful. Even though no matter what obstacle they run into, they have a choice to get up or sit there and give up.
exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. So from a Christian, from the biblical thing, and
But before you start,
yeah.
was it Elijah you talk about that every
Oh yeah,
yeah
yeah. You want me to tell about? So Elijah, the prophet Elijah, he had come up before Ahab and Jezebel, and they brought 450 of their prophets out there, and they're going to sacrifice. And Elijah said, "I tell you what, put the sacrifice out there, and y'all call down your God, and the God that brings fire down on it
right
is God." Okay.
right
So anyway, they get to jumping and shouting and cutting themselves, and at one time, it's not doesn't say it in our English, but in the Hebrew, Elijah mocked him and said, maybe he's off going to the bathroom.
yeah
Where's
yeah
your
yeah
God?
yeah
So anyway, when it came Elijah's turn, he said, pour some water on it. Pour some more water on it. And water was poured off the sacrifice into the trench
yeah, and it was just
around
puddled
it.
up puddled.
Yeah. And God called on Elijah called on his God, and fire came down, consumed the sacrifice, even licked up the water in the ditch. The, when when Jezebel heard about it, she said, "Look, basically she threatened to kill. If I see you, you're going to be like everybody else.
Right
Okay,
right
I'm going to kill you." And Elijah gets scared
mm-hmm.
after all. He's seen just God send fire
Right
down. He runs away from Jezebel and starts pouting his lip. Poor pitiful me. And I just he started getting down to depressed. He sat under a tree. Angel visited him. Finally went in the cave, and God said, "What in the world are you doing here?"
yeah
Oh, I'm the victim.
yeah
I'm the
yeah
victim,
yeah
and so I'm down and I'm in despair and everything. And the last part of that, God said, "Look, I got 7,000 that have not bowed. You ain't." Boy, he thought he was the only one, and
yeah
that's what happened was with depression
right
handled sinfully is to think you're the only one that has happened to, and nobody understands how you feel,
yeah
and whether it's economical or whatever the case may be. Now, it here's with the Christian's answer to it, and people don't. We know and we believe that Christ died on the cross for our sins. Okay, and that we repent and invite him to come into our lives, and he returns his spirit to us, and we're born again with a and we
right
can transform. Okay, with that in mind, we also know that Christians sin like anyone else does. We do.
oh
Right.
I'm not perfect by no
Tell
means.
me about that.
Yeah yeah
All right, so what is the answer for the Christian? And this deals with depression, down periods, and despair. 1 John 1:9 says, "If you will confess your sin, I'm faithful and just and will forgive you and cleanse you." Now, The problem with most Christians is they think they got, they let it stack up,
Yeah.
and then they got to fall down before God and beg and plead and cry and everything else to convince him
Mm-hmm.
that they're really sorry about what they did.
Right.
They sinned.
Right.
And God said, well, why are you doing that? I I died on the cross for your past, present, and future sin. Why are you
Right.
begging me to for something that's already yours?
Right.
Here's what confession means. It means that I agree with God that what I have done is a sin.
Right.
Okay? And I change my mind or repent.
Mm-hmm.
He's faithful and just and will forgive you and cleanse you. Until you come to the point like the prodigal,
Mm-hmm.
um, and when he uh, came to himself on this depression or despair, you have to recognize that you're at fault. You have
Yes.
to agree, like with us, agree with God. And if you're not a believer in God, but you still have to come to the point, wait just a minute. What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Why am I letting this get to me?
Yes.
I and you need to get up and do something about it. And if you don't, you're going to lie right there and you won't get up. And then it goes into all types of problems.
Yes.
And so for the Christian, just admit, okay, I messed up. I don't have any business laying around on the couch, not going to work, worrying,
Mm-hmm.
not eating, not sleeping, and all. No, that ain't who I am.
Right.
I need to get up.
Yes.
And you have to get up. And that confession means, okay, Jess, what you did was a sin. God pointed it out to you, and He's forgiven you and cleansed you, and you go on your way. But you get up and get back, and quit avoiding pity parties and refusing to engage in brooding and everything else that we do. And
Yeah.
we do that. You'd be
Oh yeah.
around somebody, talk to them, and how you doing? Well,
Oh yeah. I mean, I've worked around. There was a steel erector, and for some reason, God has given me the gift of understanding mumble, even if it comes
oh,
from
I can't, man.
even if it comes from somebody with a different accent. Uh, his name was Rion, spelled rain. He was from South Africa, and he mumbled anyway. So he had a South African accent, and he mumbled. And I got a phone call from one of my bosses that said, "Dude, I cannot understand anything he's saying. Can you call him and figure it out?" Well, you have to understand, Rion. I think it took me 2 weeks to get him to even laugh. Uh, but every time I seen him, the sky was falling all the time. I, and I would get him out of that little, but he just had that. He was down all the time. Everything, no matter he was making. I don't associate. Um, because billionaires can be depressed.
Yes.
I don't associate with, but he was making a lot of money, had no problems. I mean, I talked to him about his life, what he does, but everything the sky was falling, and I was like, man, you have got to get out of that attitude, and that's what we were talking about is uh um when you said something about today, talk about that like a not clinical attitude, but an attitude that you have to have, and that's where the sound mind. You have to
Yes.
make yourself have the attitude that even though I mean I've had stuff happen back to back to back to back to back, and just make myself understand that I cannot control this. All I'm gonna do is give 100% towards going to work, taking care of whatever I need to take care of, and just move forward until I come out of the holes or whatever had happened to me. I'm not going, I don't want to say too much and
No.
get into that, but
Well, what
it's
like the kids today.
yes,
Okay, what is it? It's all about their feelings.
feelings.
Okay, and to get out of the down period, to get out of despair, as Christians, we say we depend on God's word, not feelings. In the world, if it doesn't make any difference, you can't run by your feelings.
No,
If you can watch a person and have tears running down their cheeks, and you say, Lord, they must be going through a lot. They may be laughing so hard
right,
that till tears come, or they may be sad and going through
right,
despair. So
right.
you can't depend on feelings. And what you said, I think there's what you just said. Two things that will bring the greatest despair, depression, down periods is vocabulary and feelings.
Yes,
That is the two great dangers right there.
yes,
When that guy, everything is negative,
yes,
negative, negative, negative.
yes.
I think about you when you roll in here, and you have on the weekend, and you have. There are so many places that you could go to with your friends, trips that you could enjoy, fishing, things like that. Um, but you have rods to build,
Yeah.
okay? And you could start getting, and actually, you could get depressed. You could get down because I don't get to go around my friend. I don't get to do this and
Oh, I
this and
get
this
invited every weekend to
every
Horseshoe
weekend,
Beach
right?
to fish.
But you have, and that's part of getting up out of despair. You have a schedule, bud.
Yes,
See,
yes,
if you want this rod business to be decent,
right.
uh, and that's what happens to people. I'd rather play,
Yes,
and so you make your decision,
yeah.
not how you feel. It's
So
what you
right.
have to be, what has to be done.
And so the one thing I do remember, the one, I don't always listen to your advice. Um, but
Uh,
the one thing when I first got divorced, and I mean, Lord worked it out where I was in the town that we were living in, and running into people that, oh, I knew but I didn't know how to tell you, or I seen so and so. So he knew I needed to get away from that and sent me to Lafayette, Louisiana. Now I got sent down there, and granted, there was another. I was an assistant superintendent. There was another superintendent and a project manager. Now we all had our separate departments. We were down there for 18 months, and now I could have gone down there. And don't get me wrong, the weight I'm at now, I weighed about 200 pounds when I went down there, and all those salesmen and subcontractors would come by and bring you boudin and crackling, take
oh
you out to
man,
dinner at 8, 9 o'clock at night, eating steak with etouffee, all this stuff. I gained all my weight in like 3 months. And there's 5 heart hospitals there, so that tell you a lot.
yeah.
That tell you a lot. But the one thing when I went through my divorce, Taylor was 4, and I felt guilty. Like I would leave Louisiana. That was a 8, 9 hour, 10 hour
Yeah,
drive,
yeah, nine
and
hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I would leave Thursday afternoon every 2 weeks come get her. I made sure I had her every 2 weeks, but the weekend I didn't have her and I was down there, if I went and did something, I felt guilty, and I was getting in a funk, a place that I didn't need to be, far as in my mind, far as. And you told me that you need to find a hobby. Now, back then, some of you, granted, if there's any kids listening, y'all, I don't even know if y'all know about DVDs, but and I think even at that time there was still VHSs, but the DVDs had come out, and I was making enough money where I had a computer that I could afford DVD player computer. But anyway, Tuesdays, every Tuesday was the new movies would come out every Tuesday, and I would go. That was my thing. I don't watch any news or anything like that. I got podcasts I listen to get my news, but for I watched movies. That was my thing, and then that just what cutting it. I mean, because then you're still at the house
Right.
doing nothing,
Yep.
and then as uh, a non-perfect person that I am, then you started going out thinking, oh well, I'll go out to this place and maybe find somebody, and then finally it was I think was Pappy dead then in 2000.
I think
Yeah,
he may have been. Yeah.
2003. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up with his clubs, his golf clubs.
Ah.
And I went across, there was a driving range close by, and went and started hitting golf balls. And then I got better I just go and practice. I wouldn't go play. And then got invited a couple times to go play. And then I got a little bit better, went and got fitted for some. And then that was my hobby at that time. I hadn't even started building rods then. So, I started doing that, and that helped me. So, helped me stay out of my funk,
Right.
because I mean that's one reason why. And like some of y'all may know, my daughter gets on to me all the time because I do way too much. And I tell her, because my mind, and I know my mind works on chaos. If I don't have, the music has to be loud in here while I'm working, or I can't find on the jobs. I like it to be chaotic, at least in the mornings. It helps my mind work faster and better. So anyway, that's why I do so many things now, where I have the custom company, the girl company, the artwork, the podcast now. There's something else I do too. Anyway, but all that said is, a lot of times it comes down to finding something to keep you occupied,
Yes.
or you will get, and I may deal with this for here on out, but I know myself that I have to find something to keep me occupied,
Right.
or I would fall in that funk.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times I come home on the weekends knowing I got some rods to do that I really don't feel like doing it.
No, I know you at
And
times.
I just I had to call clients every now and then and say, "Hey, I'll have them done the next weekend." It's just. But I know I have to have something to keep me occupied in order not to do that.
See, and that's look. 5 years ago, and I had and for those that may or may not know, I had aortic aneurysm repair and a triple bypass. Uh, and they had to do it. They'd never done it at the University of Alabama Medical Center, and so they did both of them at the same time. And of course, I mean, it's a major surgery. Uh, I'm thankful that through my ministry that I had watched this
Mm-hmm.
to where this was the biggest danger, not
And
the heart, the mind after you get out,
yeah,
because every little thing
yeah,
you think, did it work? Because you get a
right,
hurt
right,
here,
right.
and that mind starts playing those
Mm-hmm.
games with you, and you start thinking, "Whoa, this is not working." And then when they split you open, the old timers told me, and I
Uh-huh.
hadn't talked to anybody, but they said it takes 2 years. But I'd
Yeah,
feel that thing
yeah,
moving in there.
yeah.
I couldn't do push-ups. I
Right,
couldn't do
right,
physical.
right.
And then I started thinking, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
all this, and that mind starts playing games
Mm-hmm.
with you to
Mm-hmm.
where you begin to. And so 2 months after I was out, I'm back on that motorcycle.
Well, and
You know,
one of my buddies, I told him what you went through, and he said, "Whatever you do, tell him to have a goal." because his dad went through not the abdominal aortic aneurysm, but he went through the
Right.
bypass or
Yeah.
whatever. And that he said it took his dad like a year to overcome, because basically you just got your legs ripped out from under
Oh
you
yeah.
because you couldn't do what you like to do for a while. So not having a goal, and your goal, I mean, I remember you
Oh
asking
yeah.
the doctor, all right, so after this, how long before I can get back on the motorcycle?
Right.
So your goal in your mind was, I'm going to do everything he says do so I can get back on that motorcycle even earlier if I have to. You
It's
know.
funny that you say that. So when I go home, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the recliner by myself, and nobody's in there, and I have my calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now my calendar at that time was staying 6 months ahead of
Right,
all the
right,
stuff,
right.
and it was almost like the Lord. He didn't audibly, but in my mind, it was always like His presence was in there. I was looking at my calendar, and I could hear Him say, "Nope." I flip over. He said, "Nope,
Nope.
nope, no." I come on, Lord. So that could have defeated me. I was blessed in being in the ministry that I'd watched this happen,
Right,
what your friend
right,
said,
right.
and I knew what the mind would do. And so when I went through rehab and I went through great there and everything, um, and I got on that motorcycle in 2 months, it's just like I'm thrilled to death that one of my kids, but Warren's friend, Billy Bonecutter,
Mm-hmm.
just went through with a stent.
Right,
Okay, and his
right.
heart. I was thrilled to death to see him out on the golf course today.
Yes, yes.
See, because he is
Yeah,
not going to let that thing play with
that's
his
right.
mind.
That's right.
He's got a goal to
Right,
get back because he
right,
loves playing golf,
right.
and so I'm thrilled to death to see him there. I mean, that was great.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I saw your little, I saw your little gift,
with a
your little
guy dancing.
dancing.
Oh
Yeah,
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 yeah. I
yeah.
mean, I just love that boy to death.
But
Uh,
and so um, it to me, depression all comes down to the sound mind. It all, to me, it always comes
yes,
back
yes,
to the sound mind that God gave us even when we were born. Not, I mean, even when we become a Christian, He still, when we were born, He gave us a mind to think.
yes,
And
yes.
and when that's the way I see it. He gave every. I mean, we all have free will. It don't matter. We have a free
Absolutely.
will to accept him or not to accept him, but you also have a sound mind to live the way you're supposed to, and a sound
Exactly.
mind to get up from whatever you're going through. And you know, I've, I mean, having you to call on, but as a man, here again, I'm fine. You know, how was your day? It was okay. It was all right. You know, but I did a lot of this on my own. Not on my own. I knew I wasn't the one in control of stuff I go through. I knew it was my job to keep moving forward, but I went through. Um, I did what I mean. What I'm getting at is I probably should have gone to therapy a little bit,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
to have somebody to talk to. But I knew I had God to talk to.
right,
But I did go through um, at the church. So when he sent me to Lafayette, Louisiana, helped build. It was East Bayou Baptist Church at the time. Now it's called Bayou Church, and they have, and they still have it. They have divorce care. They have, something recovery or
right,
whatever for,
right.
but they had a divorce care, and I was like, I don't need to go to this. I mean, my dad's a preacher. Why I need to go to
Yeah,
this? And I thought, you know what? Maybe I ought to go to this. And there was a lot of things I already knew just from you counseling other people, and um, how you dealt or how you explained to them. I knew some of that. Some of the stuff I did learn that was that helped me.
Beneficial,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that I learned that I mean it's not the same, but it's close. A divorce, especially if you've been with somebody for a while, a divorce is like a death, and that it does take time to recover and get your mind right. You know
Yes,
what I'm
yeah,
saying? And if you don't get it right before you find somebody else, you're not going to be good for that other. 9 times out of 10, if you are back in a relationship after that divorce, within 2-3 months, that marriage will never work out.
right.
There's very few. I know very few that has happened, but more times than none, within a year, that because that one of the people had not recovered.
Right,
They say
right.
it takes a year to 2 years to recover from a death, and that's the same thing with divorce, and where the depression and all that can seep in during that time or whatever.
Yeah, they
Um,
they always told me the difference between death and divorce is death is a sharp bladed knife. Divorce is a serrated knife. It rips and tears.
yeah, for 19 years. I love her. I love her.
um,
Uh,
let me tell you, this is what people ask me about. You know the story. Everybody knows the story of the prodigal son.
yes.
Okay,
Hmm.
and what it still doesn't. People don't understand that when he went to that pig pen, there are Christians living in the pig pen. And if you live in the pig pen long enough,
Yes.
you'll build a house there and you'll become comfortable as you can possibly be.
Right.
So if you have a person that, like this guy
Right.
you were talking about, the South African,
Yeah.
that is a negative person, he can live there.
Well, the same
He can
thing,
make it his home.
and that's where people that get depressed,
Yes,
they end up getting that far down that
right.
they start getting comfortable there.
Exactly. And so the prodigal son could have remained in that.
Hmm.
And the Bible says when he came to, until you come to yourself
Right.
and realize, and he said, basically said, what, as God said to Elijah, what are you doing here? Basically, the prodigal son said, what am I doing here when my daddy's got servants, man? I'm in a
Right.
pig pen, they're servants. So when he came, this is important. When he came to his father, he tried to tell his father what he was going through. And
Right.
his father didn't. And people said, well, why? His father just shrugged him off. He just threw his arms around neck and hugged me because the father understood he'd come to himself back
Right.
in that pig pen.
Right.
All the replaying and all
Right.
this
Right.
stuff is not going to undo anything.
Well, and that comes down to that's the way God sees you too. You can sit
Yes,
there and tell him he already knows what you did.
he was there when you did it.
So you're depressed, and you finally come to yourself to get up, make that choice to get up, and you go to God and ask Him to help you,
Right,
uh, and you start asking Him to forgive you for being stupid or
right.
or getting to this point. Man, I already knew about it. Why 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 are you having to repeat it?
Do you
Do
understand it?
you
That's what
understand?
he's saying. He
That's
said,
right.
and you have that thing to where people want to. You ever notice it these psychologists or whatever, and even preachers said, sit down and write a person a letter
Mm-hmm.
uh, and ask for forgiveness
Right.
and everything. And we know that when you start,
Yeah.
you'll start off good.
Mm-hmm.
Mama love, I want to tell you I love you, and we've
Yeah.
been friends
Yeah.
for a year. Then you start recalling
Mm-hmm.
what happened,
Mm-hmm.
and by the end of the letter, you're convinced that it wasn't really your fault. It was there. You're
Right.
mad by the
Right.
end of the letter,
Right.
and expect them to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
And so that's what we're talking about. When you replay all this mess in your
Yeah.
life,
Yes.
you can get very, very depressed. You could. Could you imagine this? For 19 years, every day you're bitter because of that divorce? And there are people out there like that. You know that.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, I wasn't. I wasn't
no,
bitter, but
I said, can you
oh
imagine if
yeah,
you
yeah.
were bitter
Well, I mean,
through that and carried that every day for the last
well,
19
and
years?
even if I carried it as a man, I wouldn't let you know I was carrying it, and
No,
that's a problem.
but it would
Yeah.
be reflected
Oh
in
yeah. Yeah.
attitudes
Yeah.
and things, the way you treat people,
Treat
your
women. Yeah.
relationships, all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
that's the danger in that stuff.
Yeah.
I've got things that are missed now, and God's been gracious to me of what happened to me as a child. There are things that I can remember, and God allows me to for a testimony
Right.
or to help counsel someone.
Right.
But there are things that happen that is just a mist. I can't.
Right.
It's another thing to bring that up. Paul said, and this is good. Paul said, I look in the mirror, I see one thing, and when I turn away, I forget about
Right.
what was really in that mirror.
Yeah.
And we need to just those things can come that quick.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about movies and watching all these movies.
Yeah.
The only danger with movies is, in a movie, is liable to be something that triggers you, and it
Yes.
brings back a memory. Out there on the
Yes.
golf course, you swing, you
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah. And you women watching Hallmark, y'all need to leave that, especially you single women. Y'all need to leave
oh,
that alone. It trigger
that
something. We don't
trigger.
need triggering
We don't.
Hallmark triggering.
No,
Um,
no.
well, let's
Oh
we're
yeah,
getting
that's
close,
yeah.
but what's some last little things that you want to say about
Okay.
depression?
Okay. From a Christian viewpoint, and then I'll close it with the other Christian viewpoint. I don't think you're going to have the thing about with being a Christian. We have God to help us to battle this.
Right.
Okay, we have when we accept Christ, that spirit that was in sync with God now returns to us. The problem is we still have an old nature,
Mm-hmm.
so we got that fighting back and forth within us. And so Paul said you can't do the things that you like to,
Yeah.
and so on. That causes it. But he talks about it, you being born again, and I would suggest that you really think about that you can actually start your life over again with Christ, that your whole nature can change. If you're not a believer, you still have to do the same thing as a Christian does.
Yes.
You're going to have to come to yourself, recognize that you're not dealing with this the way you should, and get up, you make a schedule, you force yourself to do it, you just continue to do it.
And if and I know it's hard for guys, but if you have somebody that that you can talk to,
Absolutely.
is big, and and that goes for anybody. You have somebody that uh,
Truthful with you.
that's truthful with
Truthful
you.
with you.
Like
That
if you
won't put
doing
up with
something
your
stupid,
bull.
you don't
Yeah.
want to hear. I mean, you want somebody that's going to be very truthful with you. Not going to pull any punches, and that's who you want to talk with. But even if you don't know how to get out, reach out to somebody. Don't let it get to the point where
Right.
you are
Right.
just, and it could be neurological. We don't know. We're not no
Or
experts.
PTSD, just
Yeah,
like we know, and I don't know what it is now, but 22 members of our military are committing suicide a day
yeah, yeah,
simply because oftentimes they will not seek
yeah.
help.
I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm fine.
fine.
I'm
I'm
fine.
fine.
I got this. I
And
got this.
right,
And you don't have it,
right,
you know.
and understand this is our podcast is
Oh, we're not.
opinion. Um,
Exactly.
and I mean, the only thing that's fact is whatever you read from the Bible.
That's it.
That's the only thing fact. Other than that, we just we
We just
just
knocking it around. We
yeah,
just knocking
yeah,
it
and
around.
and hopefully it helps you. And again, if you need something to talk to or get something, just get something off your chest by writing it down. Just remember the boat ramp cowboy24@gmail.com. Send us an email and make sure you put beyond the boat ramp or beyond the ramp in the subject line so we know what it's pertaining to. You can even put Thursday nights. That way we know it. The boat ramp 24@gmail.com, or just message on Messenger on Facebook. And I think that's about it. Remember, tomorrow night is Two Guys, One Doc with me and Mr. Dan the Man. Tune in for that. That's at 8 o'clock Friday night. That's just a little 30-minute shooting it around. We'll be announcing what topic we're going to do for next week.
Oh yeah, ask him. It's maybe
yeah, and if y'all have something you want us to talk about that you know that would benefit all of us, please again send us an email, message Cowboy Preacher, message me, or message the boat ramp. You can boat ramps on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, on YouTube. You can send us a message in any of those. But yeah, if you have anything you want us to talk about, we'd be glad to. If not, we're gonna come up with something.
Well, let me say this: you're 52. I'm 78. We're sharp enough. We lived around long enough. We can spot a troll. So if you want to troll us, that's your thing. But if you want to really have an opinion or a discussion, we're living in an age nobody wants to debate or discuss or anything today. Be decent about it. I mean, I know I'm a minister, but you're not decent because you're a minister. You're decent because you ought to be in a discussion or a debate to one human to another.
Right.
So whatever we'd be glad to share. But like I said, this is our opinion. The scripture to me, and this is why I'm on here, is the truth.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but other than that,
well, I hope y'all have a good rest of the evening and a good weekend coming up. And we'll see you next Thursday.
Yeah.
So